with 92 million euros given, plus Osimhen's 100 million release clause being matched by Arsenal, could I retool Napoli? This ain't no rebuild. In our first Serie A match, it seems so, as the Osimhen money was covered by the first 2 goals. The pacey Karim Konate arrived from RB Salzburg for 20 million, and last season's MVP, Nico Gonzalez, came for 75 big ones. People were hating, but he was going to deliver. Someone else who was delivering was Kvicha Kvaratskhelia, aka Kvaradona.
Look at Kvicha Kvaratskhelia, one of the best talents around.
Not only did he get 2 assists, but he won a penalty and slotted it in. The scoring was wrapped up by Karim Konate's brace, which was assisted by the bald Don, Baldanzi, who returned for 25 million and still had hair. An emphatic start, but there were more transfers. A quick plug, with Football Manager 2024 officially out, I'll be streaming on Twitch every week from Monday to Wednesday. Times will vary, but generally the latest start time will be around 7 p.m. UK. Okay! We ended up selling over 100 million after Osimhen, which included Leo Ostigard to Bayern, Elgif Almas to Atalanta, Nathan on loan to Palmeiras, where he stayed permanently, plus some guys who didn't play at all. Also, Nico Gonzalez's transfer got covered thanks to Qing Dynasty General Zhao Wei, who convinced Fiorentina to buy him for 25 million. For ourselves, we basically brought in a new back line. From France, Maxime Esteve arrived from relegated Montpellier, and left back Melvin Bard from Nice. Michael Coyote continued the Fiorentina raid to be our future right back. Finally, Todibo's new partner will be Antonio Silva from Benfica. 64 million. But surely a better option than Inácio.
Players the streets won't forget. A subcategory of footballer that describes someone who had an outstanding amount of technique that was loved and adorned by a certain group of footballing fans. Maybe for being a one-season wonder, or for a certain goal or a certain amount of skill and flair.
With a handful of clean sheets, plus Kfar's incredible start to the campaign, it felt like we made the right choices. Although, I think the free transfer of Guido Rodriguez was huge. He might not always get the best match ratings, but his ability to protect the defense was something we missed last year. Following, on one fine morning, I wondered how Ryan Gravenberch was doing. So I checked Liverpool, found out that Klopp left, and Unai Emery was in charge. In my stunned state, I checked their tactics, only to see DMs being played, and a certain midfielder available for loan. Dominik Szoboszlai. This was an unbelievable player to bring in, but he was getting benched by the bald Don. Baldanzi was undroppable, assisting Nico Gonzalez's brace versus Torino, grabbing another at Salernitana, along with the game winner. Then, with Roma and Mourinho, we continued our gentlemanly exchange. I said Roma was boring, and Mourinho responded in the coldest of fashions.
You want a piece of me, you trash?
Who are you calling trash?
I'll call you whatever the I want to call you.
He may have a point, but on the football pitch, Roma were frozen like statues as Baldanzi's incredible vision found a Nico Gonzalez opener. Then, I decide to out Mourinho. In the tail end, we won the ball back on 2 separate occasions, as Konate grabbed not just 1, but 2 in a span of a minute, with the latter assisted by Baldanzi. 2 more assists arrived from the Don, and while one of them came in a disappointing draw at Bologna, the former Empoli man, who was our only loss in the league so far, had 10 assists in 12 matches. Could he break Papu Gomez's record of 16?
Bacon. Pero boludo.
To sum up the Serie A talk, Szoboszlai finally showed up with goal contributions with a brace versus Lazio. A good start to the campaign, with Napoli tied for first, and some great individual performances from several. One season of Champions League group stages, and poof, it's gone. In 2024, UEFA decided to change the format for, I'm sure, good reasons. Our set of fixtures saw us face a bunch of former friends. It began with Arsenal, where we saw Osimhen in red. The opening goal made me realize this wasn't going to go my way. Of course, Osimhen also contributed with a little help from Murray. Not a great start. Next up, we found Jurgen Klopp as he was managing Real Madrid. Szoboszlai was waiting for this, as the German gave him 1 start at Liverpool. He would do this, and it must have been difficult to not do the Luis Suarez celebration. After that ended in a draw, we had a fun encounter with Celtic that included a Nico Gonzalez hat trick. We then faced Anguissa and Newcastle. However, unlike Osimhen's team, the Toon laid an egg with Nico and Kvaradona scoring in the opening 16 minutes. Then we somehow lost to Dortmund with a late corner barfest. Barcelona in December saw the last of our former friends, Zielinski, who decided to join the Catalan club for less money than what he was making here. Bro, you asked for almost 200k. Barca played this monstrosity of a 4-2-2, which clearly confused us for the winner. Nothing could get done, and Zielinski would step onto the pitch. Cheers or jeers? You can decide. Now, I'm not a big fan of the 2 extra games in January. Luckily for us, we dealt with Crvena Zvezda and Galatasaray to finish in 14th, taking on PSV later on. Meanwhile, in Serie A, Szoboszlai began to show up. He scored 5 goals in a time spanning from Atalanta in December to the middle of January, in which we were victors in all 5. The team did run into problems, like losing to Frosinone. An unhappy Ramani will get sent off 17 seconds into the second half. It wasn't his first mistake, as he nearly cost us a result versus Catanzaro, who some would say is the Luton of Italy. Luckily, we won. Nevertheless, that didn't stop me from selling his ass, but the Kosovan failed upwards in a 15 million transfer to Real Madrid. Other winter exits include Al Musrati loaned to Marseille because of his lack of minutes, Mario Rui to West Ham as he was stealing a living, and Jens Kayuste to Roma, after we drew Roma 2-all.
You are helping them?
It was decent money for a player who wasn't doing much for us. Don't you fear, Swedes. We brought in one from Hellas Verona named Hien. I'm just gonna call him Hiei though, since I've been reading Yu Yu Hakusho and the names are basically the same.
Perhaps he's a fool.
Excess funds were still available, so I spent nearly 50 million on Eric Martel from Como, who's almost a perfect defensive midfielder. Finally, we continued the love for Argentina and Giovanni's, as Lo Celso arrived on loan from Tottenham. The absolute mad lad scored a brace on his debut versus Bologna. 22 match days in, and we had a 5-point lead in the table. And with a trifecta of fixtures involving Inter coming up within 8 days, the dynamic of the standings could dramatically change. Firstly, it was the Coppa Italia quarterfinal, where Marcus Thuram opened the affair with a 4th-minute goal, assisted by João Cancelo, who made a controversial return to Inter. But everyone deserves a second chance, just not a third.
Tornerò a giocare di là. Io spero veramente.
For ourselves, Konate sold, although he was having an okay first season. Then we had a counterattack, but Raspadori was crunched from behind, and Renato Sanchez saw red. A half with a man advantage, but it seemed tough to beat Sommer. So, a quadruple change was made, and that's when the fireworks began. A poorly cleared corner landed to Lindstrom, and he found Di Lorenzo for the equalizer. Inter were getting tired, so we let Lindstrom cook again as he found Giovanni Simeone for the lead. With key players becoming exhausted for Inter, a loss here would be devastating. And that result was confirmed by Szoboszlai. We moved on to the semi-finals. The difference between the two sides' fitness showed in the Serie A encounters. An early far strike and solid defending led to a 1-0 win. A gut punch for Inter, who lost all the wind in their sails. At the Diego Armando Maradona Stadium, we put 4 past them, confirming the new owners of Inter being Napoli. 6 points gained, putting us 11 ahead of them and 7 above second. Now the next month of fixtures. We faced PSV in the playoff round, and with Simeone scoring first, an easy day was expected. That was until Murray got injured. Is this guy allergic to European knockouts? Luckily, I had a keeper on the bench, Sepe, who was signed for free in the summer as he was homegrown. Born in the metropolitan town of Naples named Torre del Greco, he got to return to his boyhood club where he previously stayed for 10 years. He conceded 7 minutes after being subbed on. Maybe not a dream story, but he was our only keeper we could use in the Champions League, despite having 4. Luckily, we won the second leg at home, thanks to our January additions. In the round of 16, we were drawn with Juventus. Our 1-1 earlier in the campaign was frustrating, but the two clubs had European history in 1989. They were competing in the UEFA Cup, now known as the Europa League, where Maradona's Napoli came back from a 2-0 deficit to defeat Juventus in extra time and move to the semis, where they'd eventually win it all. Present day, we didn't need to concede first or lose the opening leg, as Antonio Silva headed in our first shot. Our pressure was intense, as not long after, Lindstrom was tripped in the box, and Anthony Taylor, with a hair transplant, pointed to the spot. Lo Celso would ding Stjaunsne, which shows he's the true Argentine GOAT. It's not like Juventus wasn't dangerous, but Sepe made a brilliant save to keep them out. 10 minutes into the second half, it proved to be the day of Giovanni, this time Simeone, who made it 3. Juventus would eventually score, but not this penalty, as Sepe was proving to be a hero. The home tie ended 4-1, and away from home, Juventus were decent, but not better than us, as we defeated them in their yard 2-1, and overall 6-2 on aggregate. But that's as good as it got for us in Europe. We faced Barcelona in the quarters, and Xavi's team was too much to handle in the Camp Nou. A 4-0 loss was way too much to overcome. During this period, Hugo Gonzalez was injured, and he was having a great season for us, although, like several others, the first half form slowed down in the new year. That was clearly showcased in February and March, where in 6 Serie A matches, we only earned 6 points, including another damn loss to Frosinone. Our once large gap in the table shrunk to 3 with 8 matches remaining. In Europe, Sepe played, but in the league, I used Elia Caprile, as I forgot to loan him out and thought this was a good opportunity for him. 5 matches and 9 goals conceded later, I switched to Sepe until Murray returned. In those, we got back into form. Catanzaro were smoked 4-0, while Juventus were shown up once again with a Giovanni Simeone hat trick. He was delivering performances I wasn't expecting in the last third of the campaign. Even better, AC Milan lost to Empoli, giving us a 6-point advantage. Both of us won on matchday 33 and 34 to keep that gap. The good news for us was that they had to deal with Chelsea in the Europa League semi-final, although we had the scary thought of Mourinho's favorite fetish, humiliating Crucini.
4 hours later.
He will have nothing to say. Nothing after I humiliate him.
It's the Coppa Italia semi-finals, which is where we lost a year ago. However, unlike then, this was stress-free. Lo Celso scored in both legs, while Raspadori and Lindstrom grabbed a goal each to win 4-1 on aggregate. That also included a Luigi Sepe clean sheet. The final would be against Lazio, which was placed a couple days before AC Milan in our penultimate Serie A fixture. If the gap remains at 6 and they beat us, we would have to draw Torino on the final day to win the Scudetto. The boys did what they had to do versus Empoli, as Nico Gonzalez returned to form, grabbing a brace. Granted, Empoli helped with Pizzella seeing red early on. Now, it was up to Ancelotti's AC Milan. After defeating Chelsea in Europe, they had Lazio on Sunday, and they lost. Marusic and former Milan defender Romagnoli pushed them 9 points back, which means all we had to do was draw Spezia. With a sole point needed in 3 games and a cup final in a couple days, I rotated, and it would be enough. Despite conceding this, a Konate brace earned us the victory. Napoli are champions of Italy once more, and finally, Mr. Crucini has won the Scudetto. The club didn't have to wait 33 years this time, but it has been 38 years since they earned the Italian double. Didier Deschamps' Lazio struggled in the standings, as this was the only opportunity at European football for them. However, a Swedish man would take that away very quickly. We get the second ball, Kvara, dance on them. What a cross. Hien, Simeone of Giovanni. Let's go. Baldonzi corner kick, nothing's gonna come from there. Yay! Baldonzi with the assist. What a bargain transfer, as that was his 7th for us. But we weren't finished with Lazio. In the second half, Maradona showed he was him. Maradona! And Todibo would get the 4th, as we won the Italian double. 2 trophies in a matter of days, cementing a historic season in Naples. Most beautifully of all, Sepe was able to keep a clean sheet in the final. Despite selling last year's top scorer, we ended up improving overall. Not everyone performed to expectations, but the ones who did pushed us over the line. Champione, champione, ole, ole, ole.